Welcome everyone, this is Jennifer McGuire, and I thought I'd share a video today showing some really simple ways to add heat embossing details to your cards. This is a great way to kind of pump up a simple card, maybe one that's monochromatic like mine, or even a one-layer card. I'll also share some tips along the way for getting a nice ombre ink blending using a couple different tools. Now, all the cards that I'm making today, I actually have two. I have a bonus one that will be at the end of this video. These are all using the newest Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit. They have a new kit that comes out every month, and it's only a limited supply, so you got to get it while they still have some. This month's kit has this fairy theme, and it's really unique. I like it. There are also some add-on products available. I didn't use the add-on products in today's video, but I wanted to mention it in case it was something that you were interested in. So here are a couple of the things, or a few of the things that are available for add-ons. There's stamps, dies, stencils, and more. But let's go ahead and start with the main card for today. I have some white cardstock here cut to 4 inches wide by 5.5 tall. And I have a circle that's about 3 inches wide, and this is a circle die. And I am just going to trace it onto my paper lightly with a pencil. We will use this circle die to cut a mask later on, and I want to position the mask in this area. So I'm drawing the pencil line first so I know what to stamp around. So I have the fairy from the Hero Arts kit. I love this fairy image. I think it's so beautiful. I'm stamping it with Tide Pool Shadow ink. You could use any ink you want right onto the card, and I'm making sure that part of the fairy is in that circle area. I'm also stamping the little wand in her hand and the little pixie dust, or whatever you want to call it, coming up from the wand. There are lots of small little images in the stamp set so you can build up a beautiful scene. Now I wanted to add some shading onto this image, but I wanted to keep it monochromatic, so I wanted to color in with that exact same color of ink. So I'm using this tool called a Fantastics, and these are basically kind of like a foam that's a little bit more firm. It has a point to it. And all I do is I rub it onto the ink pad and then I color it into my image. Now it's not perfectly firm, so it kind of gets loose on the tip as you use it, but I just kind of cut the tip sharper when I need to. I could have instead used a colored pencil or a marker that matched the ink, but this is a great way to get the exact same ink color. So I'm just adding quick shading to the wings and the dress alone. Okay, so now I wanted to add something really special to this image to really make it stand out. So I have a quickie glue pen. This is a fine tip glue pen, and I am just going to color in parts of the image. Then I will add embossing powder. Since I'm going to be doing heat embossing, I used my anti-static powder tool so that the powder wouldn't stick anywhere else. So I decided I'm going to color in her wings and her dress with this quickie glue pen. Now it comes out blue, but when it dries clear. And you could just do tiny little details if you wanted to. I'm coloring in these large areas here, but then I'm just going to add little dots of glue to those little parts of the image also. And now I'm adding on some sparkle embossing powder. So you can actually use a glue pen to do heat embossing. If you had a Versamark pen, you could use that also, or any kind of embossing pen, but this has a finer tip. And that quickie glue pen is very inexpensive. Now, when you go to heat this, it takes a little bit more heat to get it to emboss because you're actually drying the adhesive and embossing the powder, or heat embossing the powder. So there you can see that beautiful shine that you get on the image. In real life, this really makes a big difference on kind of making that simple image come to life. Now for a sentiment, I chose this Hello Beautiful from the Hero Art stamp set that you see there. Now the image is one image, it's hello and beautiful together, but I wanted to stack the words, so I just took my scissors and gently cut apart the stamp. I can always mount them together how they were originally intended. This is a great way to get more out of your stamps. Now when I went to stamp beautiful, I was afraid I would stamp it crooked. So I'm taking a T-ruler and putting it right against the edge of my paper, just so I have a straight line to kind of follow when I go stamp. So I'm inking that up with Versamark ink, and there I can stamp it, and I use that straight edge as kind of a guide to make sure I was stamping straight. And now I'm putting on Hero Art Silver Embossing Powder. This embossing powder is so beautiful. It heat sets so smooth and shiny. It's just by far my favorite silver embossing powder. So there's a closer look at how nicely that heat embosses. Okay, so now it's time to add some more fun to this. So to do this, I want to kind of mask this area so the focus will stay on this fairy and the sentiment. So I have die cut from that same circle die I showed you earlier. from some masking paper. So this is just a circle mask. It's kind of sticky on the back. And I'm just going to stick it down right inside where I traced it earlier with the pencil. And I now am going to erase that circle line. So now we can apply ink over this. And in this whole card, you'll notice the only colored ink I use is this Hero Arts Tide Pool. So you could do these monochromatic cards in any colors you have, and you could use pretty much any inks you want here. Now towards the bottom of the card, I want it to be darker and then lighten as it goes up. So I'm using a Tim Holtz ink blending tool to put this ink down here because it puts a lot of ink down and you can be very firm with it. Now as I go up towards the top of the card, I want it to become lighter. So I switched to the Clarity stencil brush. This puts down a very faint bit of color. Now you can put a lot of it on, keep going back and forth and build the color up, but it's an easy way to put a light amount of ink down. So I actually like to use my ink blending tools and the stencil brushes together. I have a video coming soon that will talk more about that. Now when you use that circle ink blending tool, by the way, be sure to go at an angle to the paper. That'll help get a smooth blend too. So there we have like a partially masked area. Now before we move on to the next step, I like to stop and heat set this. This is a dye ink which dries quickly. However, it doesn't really absorb into the paper and kind of stay true to its color until you've given a little bit of heat or given it a little bit of time. So now that I've heat set that, I'm going to go ahead and do some more stamping on top using, again, that same Tide Pool ink. So I'm just stamping some little fairies. I'm going to do some leaves too. Now there are leaf images in the stamp set that comes in the kit, but I love this leaf stamp set from Hero Arts. This is not part of the kit. This is an older stamp set of theirs. I think these leaves are beautiful, and I thought I'd use a couple of those to kind of stamp some leaves along the bottom of this card. I really want to keep this truly monochromatic, so I'm just using that one color, but we'll add some more embossing powder details to this to really add some interest to the card. Now, as I mentioned, this is a dye ink, and normally you really can't heat emboss with dye inks because they dry too fast. But if you move quick and put a little bit of embossing powder on it, some of it will stick to your image. So I put some sparkle embossing powder on top of this, and the only things that were really kind of freshly stamped were the leaves on the bottom and that fairy on the bottom. So it's going to add a little bit of sparkle to those images. Since I'm doing this all in one color, that little bit of sparkle makes a big difference. If I really wanted that to be super sparkly and embossed well, I could have just stamped on top of it with Versamark ink, then done the heat embossing. Now for this fairy, I really wanted her to sparkle, so I'm taking that Quickie glue pen to kind of trace her some more and add some more of the sparkle embossing powder and heat set it. So that little glue pen is great for adding heat embossing details that can make a big difference on your card. Now you can try any glue pen that you may have or an embossing pen. Okay, so I went ahead and heat set that all again. I am using my anti-static powder tool again because I want to do some white heat embossing on top of this, and I wanted to make sure that white powder only sticks to where I stamp. So I'm stamping the little trail behind the fairy with Versamark ink right on top of everything we already have, and then I'm going to add the white embossing powder to that and heat set it. I will say that it is very important to use your anti-static powder tool when you're doing a lot of heat embossing like this. Use it every time you go to heat emboss. That will ensure you get really clean embossing, especially when you're dealing with details like we are here. Now I wanted to give this card a little more shine, so I have my shimmer mist here. I'm going to shake it really well, and I'm going to spray it about 5 times from about 2 feet above. The higher above you spray it, the better the mist you will get on your card. So I put the mask down just so I could keep that circle area just plain white, but this adds a soft shimmer to the background. Can't see it in the video very well, but in true life, it really catches the light nicely and gives a soft shimmer over the whole card. So when you combine that soft shimmer with the big sparkle on the embossed images, this card really kind of steps up. I think it would be fun to do a set of monochromatic cards like this to give as a gift. You could do each card in a different color. These techniques, by the way, would be really good for a 1-layer card. However, I wanted to add some dimension to this. So I trimmed my panel down to about 3 3/4 by 5 inches tall. And I'm gluing a piece of craft foam that's slightly smaller behind that. This will give it some nice, even raised dimension, and I don't have to worry about it going through the mail. Now, I originally thought this would look best on a white note card, so I'm gluing it towards the top corner of a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card, but I thought that was kind of boring, so I actually took it off and I switched it to a silver note card. So this is silver cardstock that I have cut into a note card, and it scores beautifully. It's got a white core on the inside. I'll link to the one that I use. And I really think that does a better job because it ties in with the silver sentiment. I also stamped the fairy on my envelope so that would match perfectly too. Okay, so there is one example using this fairy kit to create a monochromatic card with lots of embossed details. And these techniques could be used with a variety of stamps. Okay, I wanted to show you one more example with the fairy. I went ahead and stamped the fairy and the sentiment with black Copic friendly ink, and then I colored the fairy in quickly with Copic markers, but you could use any coloring you want. Now I'm going and adding the Quickie glue pen to color in her wings, her hair, and her dress, and then some other little details on the card. Remember, if you have an embossing pen, you could use that instead, but I really like the fine tip of this glue pen. It will look blue at first, but I just go ahead and add my sparkle embossing powder or whatever embossing powder you want, and then I'm going to heat set it. Now I have beautiful sparkle just in certain areas of the image. It really makes a big difference in real life. So you can do that with any stamped image you may have. So if you are interested in the products I talk about, you can just check my YouTube description below or go to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com. Much more information there, and I have the link below. Also in the middle are 2 other videos that might be of interest to you. These also share some heat embossing techniques and ink blending techniques. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.